Hello, and today we are going to be talking about some issues that have been happening to my explained. And if you are watching this video, I'm guessing that you may be having this issue as well. So let's jump into the video and I'm going to show you what is happening. I was doing a flight yesterday, and on these clips that I have taken, you can see there are some stuttering throughout the video, and throughout the flight, the frame rate has been really poor. I was getting about probably under 20 frames, about 18-20 frames per second, which is unusually low because usually I get about like 30 frames per second on Explained. Um, so what I did was I reinstalled the NVIDIA graphics driver. It comes as a package with like the audio driver and the physics and all those things. I only uninstalled the graphics driver. I didn't uninstall the other ones. And then I just went back and reinstall the graphics driver, but it will just overwrite all the other ones that hasn't been uninstalled. So after that, I came into Explain and I got a slight boost of frame rate. And on the previous flight, what was happening was I went into Task Manager as well, and I noticed that it was using all of my CPU power, and it wasn't using a lot of my GPU, which is the graphics card. So my CPU was consistently at 100%, and my GPU is about 5-10%, which is really low, given that Explain usually use quite a lot of the GPU since it has to render all the graphics. So that is a big sign that something isn't right. So after I have reinstalled the graphics driver, I went back into Explain and got some FPS boost, and the performance of the computer was so the CPU was about 50 to 100%. So it basically jumps up and down. So I would say average it's about 75%, but it goes up to 100% for like a second, and then it goes down to like 50%. And as for my GPU, which is my graphics card, it was hanging at about I think 20%. I cannot exactly remember now. It was higher than my previous flight. So that was a good sign because we didn't want it to be like really low since um, it basically wastes all the potential performance that it could give. So the next thing that I did a test flight. Um, and while I'm doing the test flight, I went into my graphic settings on Explained and I did some tweaking. So as I'm doing the tweaking, I have my task manager up for you to have a look as well. So you can see my CPU and my GPU performance. I do have a pretty old CPU. I installed this computer, I think, about 7 years ago. So this CPU has been pretty outdated compared to the new ones that are coming out. As for the GPU, I have upgraded, I think, 3 months ago. So it's a fairly new graphics card. It's an upgrade as well because the previous one that I have was only 4 gigs of VRAM. This one has a 8 gigabyte VRAM, so that makes a huge difference. Um, And you can see on the memory as well, I have a 24 gig. I am trying to have a look here. I can't really see, but I'm pretty sure it's 24. So I have a 24 gig RAM, which is more than sufficient. Usually, I think when I was looking, since early days when I was flying X-Plane, I think the most that I've seen it goes is about 15 gigs. And that is, having like all the applications open, like Chrome, all the other like virtual airlines and all those things that are open up. That is usually how much it uses. So RAM wise, I am pretty good. It never really like go really close to the maximum. So I wasn't worried about my RAM. So the only thing that I'm worried about is my CPU and my GPU. So GPU is not really an issue since I do have the capacity. I just need X-Plane to sort of make use of my GPU. So I did some tweaking, and as you can see from my settings, I have so visual effects. I have it on max, texture quality on max, anti-aliasing. I will explain this a bit later, and then I have the any. I can't even pronounce this. Any soft tropic filtering. I have this at 16 times. So as you can see on the left hand side, it's basically all the GPU stuff. And then on the right hand side, we have the CPU stuff. So we have the number of world objects. I was having that on low, but now it's on medium. Reflection detail was on low. I now put it on minimal. And then as you can see, I'm using Balkans for this. So for the world objects, I'll just start from the CPU side. I did so when I was put it on low before, I was having some issues. So here's a clip. As you can see, when I was doing a flight into I always forget the name of this airport. But basically, I flew into this airport and the buildings didn't show up. And I was a bit sort of disappointed because I wanted to do a video, but the airport didn't show up. So it was a bit disappointing. And this wasn't the first time that was happening. It had happened a few times, especially when I was flying into the UK. The airport buildings didn't want to show up. So I put that to minimal, and what happened was all the buildings didn't show up regardless of where I go. So I can like spawn into any airports. None of the airport buildings show up. So I was like, oh, that is interesting. So I put it to medium, and suddenly everything show up. So I believe putting it on low causes the airport buildings to not show up. So now I'm using medium. Hopefully because this is only my first flight on these settings, so I'm not sure how it's going to go. But hopefully by putting it on medium, it's going to sort of remove the issues of airport buildings not showing up. As for the reflection detail, because like I said on my previous flight, I was using, my CPU was maxed out. So what I did was I basically put the settings to minimal, and that will just take the load off of my CPU. So coming to the left hand side, we have visual effects, texture quality, and any soft tropic filtering. So I have adjusted these few things. It was so visual effects and texture quality was on high. Now it's on maximum. anisotropic filtering, I had it on 4 times. Now it's on 16 times. There wasn't any impact on my CPU. But as you can see, my GPU usage is now pretty high. So I'm assuming that is what is using up my GPU. And that is what I want because it has so much more capacity left. I just want to like make use of it. Um, and when I was doing the test flight, coming into this airport, whatever the name is, I still haven't remember the name of this airport. When I was flying in and going through the clouds, what happened was my FPS dropped. So it was giving me about 13 frames per second, roughly. And obviously that is very, very low. We want a minimum of probably about 20 frames, I would say. That is like the absolute minimum. So yeah, I tried to play around with the settings and I basically find out that this what is this settings called, the anti-aliasing. I had it on, I believe, 4 times SSAA plus FXAA. So I bring it down to 2 times SSAA plus FXAA, and instantly I get a 10 FPS boost. So now I'm leaving it at 2 times and I'm getting pretty good frame rates. So I'm getting about, I would say, 30, mid 30s when I'm in the airport. I haven't done a flight using these exact settings yet, but I can already be sure that it is a lot better than what I had previously. So if you are having issues with the X-Plane performance, especially on like the FPS or your CPU, GPU performance, I would definitely encourage to do those things first. And this is not from me anyway. I actually went into the forums and got some advice from the community, and this is what they have suggested. So reinstall your graphics driver if you are using NVIDIA. If you're using other ones, I am not sure if that will cause that much issue because I've seen a lot of posts and most of them complain about the NVIDIA driver. So if you're using NVIDIA, that is probably a good thing to do. Just uninstall your graphics driver, reinstall it. The next thing is to go into your X-Plane graphics settings. Obviously, you don't have to use the settings that I have since everyone have very different specs. So just based on your own specs, you can adjust the slider to make it or to give your computer the maximum performance and using what your computer is capable of, basically. So don't put everything on high because everyone have different performance on their computer. So maybe put it like in the middle if you have like decent-ish computer, and then start like bringing it up and see how that impacts your like FPS, how it impacts your like CPU, GPU, and yeah, just adjust it to a point where you think it could work. And then just like do test flights and just keep adjusting until you basically get that sweet spot that it's not going to cause any FPS loss and you are using the most out of your CPU and your GPU. And if you have like modern, like new CPUs, you would definitely get a lot more out of your CPU than mine. given that my CPU is pretty old. So yeah, just play around with it. The main thing that I have found personally is that the anti-aliasing does use a lot of FPS. So just be aware of that. It could be different to yours. I am not sure, but at least on mine, anti-aliasing is the issue. So yeah, just play around with the slider and see whether there's any changes. Yeah, I think that's all for this video. I was supposed to do a flight, but obviously this is what I am trying to sort out, and it seems to be working all right for now. I'll do a few flights and see how it goes with these settings. Obviously, I might do some tweaking as we go, but for now, this is what I found out. If you enjoy or find this video helpful, feel free to give me a thumbs up. That will be very much appreciated. Um, if you have any questions about like the performance thing or like explain or whatever it is, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to help you out. Obviously, I don't have all the answers, but I'll try my best. And if you're new to my channel, feel free to subscribe if you want to watch my flight sim videos. I obviously don't do a lot of these settings videos, given that it's not a lot to talk about. Go check out my other explain videos. It's on a dedicated playlist called Explain 11. So if you go to my profile, go to my playlist, you can go to my Explain 11 playlist and you can find all my flight sim videos. And if you enjoy those, you can subscribe, and I'll be putting out videos pretty regularly. So you might see maybe like 2 videos a week. And if you don't want to miss out, press the notification button, and that will inform you when I upload the video, since I don't really have a set schedule. And yeah, that is about it. I hope this helps someone out there, given that there are quite a few people that are having this issue about the frame rates and the CPU GPU issue. So yeah, give it a go. If yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.